you for joining us for our fifth alumni chat of spring 2025. I am the Associate Director of Employer Relations, Jackie Banks. Nice to see all of you. And I want to thank Adora Adeyemi for joining us today. Adora currently works as an assistant to a literary manager at Entertainment 360. While in school, she interned at Paramount within MTV and BET, and she graduated with an English degree in 2024. Thank you for joining us, Adora.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be talking to you.
I'm excited that you're here too. Okay, so for everyone who's listening, can you tell us a little bit about what an assistant to a literary manager does?
Yes, gladly. So, as an assistant, you're handling a lot of administrative work for your boss. You're scheduling meetings, you're making calls. But you're working sort of not just for your boss, but also for all of your boss's clients. My boss has quite a few clients. I'd say probably around like 40 or so, or 30. Obviously not all of them are active at the same times, but I am making calls and scheduling not just for my boss, but also for all of our clients. So if one of our clients needs to be set up with a producer, my boss will make a call, be like, hey, like, I think you'd love my client. The producer says, sure, go ahead. And then my boss says, Adora, get into setting that. So that's essentially my job. I'm also reading scripts, not as often as I'd like to just because I'm so busy, but it is part of the job for me to read scripts and sort of look out for whether this writer is maybe somebody worth like signing or whether the project is something that could be good for one of my boss's clients. Sometimes I may be asked to do coverage as well, which is sort of essentially giving a summary of a script in case my boss like doesn't have time to read it. My boss also represents a few actors. That's what we call talent. So though my boss is primarily lit, she also has some talent clients. And in that case, we have these meetings each week, which are talent meetings where me and my boss go in there along with all the other talent management managers. We go in there and we look at sort of every single project that's going on in Hollywood, every single role that's open. And I go in there and I circle everything that could be good for my boss's potential clients. So a lot of it is, like I said, the administrative stuff, but also like being on the lookout for different opportunities for my boss and my clients.
Oh, that's helpful. So, I was thinking, and I started off, of course, asking like a little bit what you do, but I'm sure a lot of folks that are on the call, especially if they're interested in entertainment, they've heard of like Dora is a talent assistant. And so that's very common way into the industry. But one of the ways she started, even before becoming an assistant, she was in the mailroom. So can you tell us a little bit about what that even means? A lot of students that come in and they're like, what does it mean to be in a mailroom? I think of it as like a temp role until you
Yeah.
get the coveted assistant role. So can you tell us a little bit about mailroom?
Yes, yeah. I was also like very clueless as to what the mailroom was shortly before starting and like talking with people. And when I would hear the word mailroom, I sort of thought like back to like the like 80s, 70s image of like, oh, you have the cards and you're going around, you're handing out the mail. And it's not exactly that. It does have elements of that, but of course it's updated now. Essentially, being in the mailroom means, and depending on the size of the company, it could be different how big the mailroom is. At 360, it's usually seven, six people in the mailroom at a time. Basically, in the mailroom, you have different tasks. You print stuff for the company. So if an assistant or a manager needs something printed, they may email the mailroom, say, hey, we need this script, attach the document. The mailroom has several like big printers that are made for printing high volume stuff such as scripts. So in the mailroom, somebody prints it, they bind it, prepare it, and give it to whoever has asked for the document. So in a sense, there is that element of like going around and like passing things out. If mail comes in, same thing, they come, say, hey, this is for Melissa, this is for you, da da da. But what I guess they don't mention also is in the mailroom, you're doing even more coverage than an assistant typically would, because an assistant may not have time to do coverage. In the mailroom, they very much train you on coverage, on being able to read scripts, um, being able to read them in a sufficient, efficient amount of time, being able to read not just scripts, but also like books, being able to watch things quickly and being able to give your succinct thoughts and detailed thoughts on what those things are. And that's a good way for you to like sort of show your like sense of taste and your experience and being able to give like a summarized, like detailed response on what something is. In the mirror room, they may also have you watch things specifically looking out for like something in order to make reels. They'll ask you to do what they call like timestamps. So they may say, hey, watch this Netflix movie that has my client, pick out all the scenes that has that client and tell me what the best ones are so we can put it together for a reel, things like that, which is I think one of the most fun aspects of being in the mailroom. Um, Apart from that, again, something else that's very important is knowing that when you're in the mailroom, that's not the end goal. Like you know that like if you're in the mailroom, this is like you said, a temp situation for you to eventually become an assistant. So as you're in the mailroom doing mailroom duties, you're also um being trained on what it means to be an assistant. So if an assistant is out for a day or two, they will have somebody from the mail and be like, hey, Adora is out for Monday, you're gonna replace her on the desk. And so you do that enough times and you get your bearings and you get a sense of like what it means to be an assistant. And then eventually when a spot truly opens up because an assistant is leaving, they will likely pick somebody internally from the mailroom to fill that position. So that's how the pipeline works. And the timing of that is kind of unpredictable. It can be as quick as after you're in the mailroom for 3 days. It could be as long as you've been in the mailroom for like 6 months. Like it sort of just depends on timing of things. But yeah, that's essentially what it means to be in the mailroom, performing mailroom duties, but all in service of you eventually moving up to being an assistant.
Yeah, it almost sounds like an apprenticeship role where,
Exactly.
yeah, they're taking you on. So a little bit like a combination apprenticeship temp position. So,
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to eventually get to how you got there, which I know was a journey, but let's kind of
Mhm.
go back further to like the things you did in order to prep yourself to even do this. So, can you talk a little bit about the internships you did and just that process, what it was like looking for them, any advice that you would have, and things that you did as a part of the internship?
Yeah, absolutely. My first internship at Paramount was, I think this was in 2022. This was under BET. How I ended up landing that, I think it was partially, I joined an organization called the T. Howard Foundation, which was dedicated to, it had all these companies that it was partnered with, like Paramount, Disney, NBC, ones like that. And it was sort of dedicated to finding people from underrepresented groups, young students from underrepresented groups that were interested in the entertainment industry and like helping them in, getting their start in the industry. I applied to Paramount before, I think before I even joined T. Howard. So I applied separately, but then after I joined T. Howard, I let them know that I had applied to Paramount and they were like, oh, like we'll also like let Paramount know. So it was a bunch of different combinations, but it was really helpful having T. Howard sort of like there in the background as I was doing the internship, because it's like as I'm doing obviously the work for the internship, I'm also, allowed to go to these workshops that T. Howard is holding throughout the summer. I was assigned a mentor, and there were people at Paramount who had been T. Howard fellows before, and so they talked to me and other like current T. Howard fellows. So what I would recommend sort of like looking for different like additional programs that are dedicated to like helping certain like groups of people like enter the industry because that was helpful for me. And then for the second summer that I interned at Paramount, I was not still with T. Howard, but by that point, because I had interned with Paramount before, I reached out to the connections that I had made from the first summer and I sort of told them like, hey, like just letting you know, like I'm planning on applying for this. And I think it was helpful having them like vouch for me. And so even though I didn't apply to the first summer was BET, second summer was with MTV. And so even though I wasn't going back to the same branch at Paramount, I was able to use their like help in getting me to where I like actually wanted to go.
Got it. Okay. So that maybe brings us kind of closer to the time at which you graduated. And then the search for this. So it's just
Mhm.
because I knew your process, maybe you could tell folks
Yeah.
about almost to set expectations too, because I think for a lot of students, when and knowing Georgetown's culture, that there's a lot of students in
Mhm.
other industries that have jobs lined up right at graduation or close to that. So when you're in entertainment, that's a little more challenging. So can you tell us about like how long it took and just that process to and how you got it eventually, and maybe touching on, did you just apply to things? Did you network? All of that.
Mhm. Yeah, this is something that I definitely like love to talk about because it's like obviously very fresh for me and you were with me like through like that whole like experience. Essentially, I graduated May 2024 and I wanted to work in the industry, and I had like talked to different people about what it means to work in the industry and what is a good place to start off. And I was told that it would be a good idea to start working at a talent management company or a talent agency. And so from there, I talked with you a lot, of course, and Jackie is a very helpful resource for I think anybody at Georgetown that's looking to work in the industry. She was able to help connect me with a lot of alumni that are already working both in LA or New York or anywhere, just doing anything in the industry. And I'd say it's important to sort of not keep your um sites like super small. I think there were some points where it was like I was so like specific in what it was that I wanted to do, and I was thinking like, okay, well, this is who it feels like I should talk to, like, but you never know like who could end up being super helpful and in what ways they can be super helpful. Like even if whoever you're talking to doesn't have like the job position that you're like going for, they likely know somebody else that does. So I was taking like general meetings with like anybody that Jackie was setting me up with, and they all had really helpful pieces of advice, no matter like how close they were to the talent agency management representation world or how far they were from it. Just anybody in this industry will be able to give you like some like really helpful pieces of advice. And one thing I made sure to do is that with every conversation, I at the end sort of made it clear what I was trying to do or where I was trying to go, and I asked them, is there anybody else that you recommend that I talk to? So it would obviously start off with the people that Jackie introduced me to, but then from there it would create like a bigger web of people that I was able to like network with, and the web just kept on growing and growing. And what was honestly really helpful about that is that now some of the people that I talked to back then, like I see their names pop up, like the people that my boss is calling, this it's assistants that like I'm working with, and I'm like, hey, like, do you remember me? And they're like, yeah, I do remember you from the summer before. So for any, even not even if not just about like landing a job, but just for the future, like you will, it's a big city here, LA, but it's a small industry in some senses. Like you will run into these people again. So during the summer, I'd say about June or July-ish, I started getting like really serious about like looking for a job, and I didn't land my position until end of September. And within those 2, 3 months, like I definitely worried and panicked, but trust me, it will end up working out. Like the search can take longer for some than others. It's not you, it's just the way the industry ebbs and flows. Like I sort of eventually learned that like that summer, it was just sort of a known thing that the industry was going through a bit of a stalling period. But then soon as fall hit in September, everything just started opening up all like over like in a really random way. I had reached out to so many people during the summer, and it was only in September that like all of a sudden, like within the span of like 3 days, all of them like started getting back to me. So it's really just a bit of a waiting game, but make sure that as you're waiting, you're not just sort of like sitting around feeling hopeless, like, oh, this isn't going to happen. Like within that time, there's so much you can be doing to prepare yourself. You can be reading scripts, watching movies, like developing your skills, reaching out to people to talk to. So yeah, I'm not sure if I covered everything because there's like so much more that I can say, but I don't want to like ramble on and on.
No, that's so helpful because I think, if you think about like you graduated like mid-May, mid-late May, and then you got the offer like probably mid-late September, that's like
Yeah,
4 months, and you were looking. So, and that it's a good way to set expectations for students who are also doing that process and how important it is, even though it's exhausting to do all the connecting and the networking, but building like good relationships, it's important.
for sure. Definitely big, like good for you to also like keep track of those relationships. Like things got easier for me once I like sat down, I made an Excel spreadsheet where I was like, okay, like these are the people that I've hit up, these are the ones that I want to hit up, these are the ones that I hit up and haven't replied to me. Has it been 3 days yet? Let me follow up. Another big thing that I would stress, like the importance of following up, like you're not being annoying, you're not being rude. If you just say it in a really kind way, like, hey, like kindly checking up on this, I'd still love to meet. Especially now that I'm in the industry, I see like everybody is so busy. Everybody is so busy. So if they're ignoring you, most times it's not really because they want to, it's because like they just literally have forgotten because they've gotten like 10,000 emails a day. So just like pushing yourself up to the top of their inbox, one, keeps you like fresh in their minds and like helps them remember. And two, also shows them like, okay, this is somebody that's like actually really serious about this. Like let me take time to talk to them.
And as I'm listening to you talk too, there you said a couple times like, developing your skills during that time. And of course, now like the multitasking that it takes. So, um, what if you were to advise students that are interested in say in the talent part, but like also entertainment, are there certain skills, soft skills, hard skills that you would recommend they start to develop?
I think this is something that like people sort of stressed to me, like as I was looking for a job and sitting around and wondering like what should I do with my time. I think in this job, whether you're representing or looking to represent like writers or directors or actors or whatever, it all comes down to the script because you're either reading a script and thinking like okay about the writing or you're thinking about the roles that are in the script. So I think taking the time to think of your favorite movies, your favorite shows and read those scripts and understand like the structure of it, understand how characters are formed, like be able to visualize it, think of like what actors could work in it. That's like a skill that I think is easy to develop because it just means, you're able to see on paper how some of your favorite projects come to life. And it's something that will like be ultimately very rewarding in the future when maybe you don't have enough time to read as many scripts as you want, but you've already gained the skills of what it means to like analyze the script, look at it, pick out the roles, summarize it. Um, I guess another skill, this is more of a soft skill that like I don't know how you would specifically like well, I can say specifically like how you would develop this, but like being able to problem solve, like I feel like now I really understand like oh like when you put like problem solving on your resume, like to me it just used to feel like a general thing, like okay, like who doesn't not solve a problem? But now I really see the importance of being able to sort of have situations come at you and like really think like okay like what are the different ways that I can solve this in ways that don't necessarily rely on your boss, like I said, like everybody's so busy in this industry and I think they're looking, if I can sort of guess what kind of people they would love to hire as an assistant on the mirror, it's people that like know how to problem solve on their own, like think independently. Of course, always great to ask questions, but sort of knowing like, okay, like who are the people that I can ask? I can ask my peers, I can think about how I've handled the situation before, just sort of being able to like think on your feet when things come at you and not just like sort of flake and like blunder and just like get like worked up over what's happening, being able to sit down and logically be like, okay, like I'm gonna face this head on. That I think is a really, really valuable skill that will come a long way in an industry that's as busy and chaotic as this one.
No, that's great. And I was thinking for students that are kind of watching this, and of course you had the great experience. T. Howard is great. So yes, for those of you that are thinking about uh, um, an organization that helps get people into the industry, T. Howard's great. Um, but in terms of like on-campus activities or maybe even classes, I'm thinking like as you were saying that
Mhm.
about you could look up a script online for movies. You could do that.
for sure.
You can also take screenwriting classes, and I'm not sure if you know, if you took a screenwriting
I did,
class,
yeah.
and I know you worked at the Georgetown Voice, so, so for younger, students that are watching this, maybe first year, second year, would you recommend maybe some classes that they should take as they are looking to, like, being an upperclassman? Are there certain on-campus clubs that they should look at?
I absolutely would recommend that, especially because the chances are, like, not 100%, but it's possible that like the people that you end up being in these clubs and classes with are people that, like, if they are also serious about being in the industry, you will run into them. Again, like there are people who I've met out here that are like Georgetown students in my year, and it's like maybe I didn't know them like on a personal level, but like I was like, oh, I remember you from that one class that we took together in the film program, or even people where it's like, oh, like we weren't in the same grade or we weren't at Georgetown at the same time, but we were part of the same organization, just at like different points in our lives. So that's one reason why it's so important to like take these classes and like look into these like um organizations that are like focused on entertainment at Georgetown. Ones that I would recommend, first of all, GMA undergrad. GMA stands for Georgetown Entertainment Media Alliance. GMA isn't the kind of club where it's like, oh, they have like a set meeting time and you show up every day and you have to do something. It's sort of just about like providing opportunities for students to connect with alumni in the industry, like Hoyas in the industry specifically, which has been like invaluable, not just in terms of like, oh, like they become like an actual connection. Even just GMA has lots of like events or workshops where they bring in a guest, sort of similar to how I am doing this, but with somebody that's like way higher on the professional scale, bring in somebody and like have them talk. Things like that are super helpful. So I definitely recommend GMA undergrad. Um, if you have an interest in writing, in journalism, or even you just care about like film and TV or books, The Voice, I think, is a great organization. I like owe so much of my time at Georgetown to The Voice. It's also just like really helpful, especially at a school that like isn't super dedicated to film and TV and entertainment. It was always nice to like step in that room and know like, okay, like I'm about to hang with people that like get it. Like I'm gonna talk about this niche, like silly reference that like nobody else cares about, and they're gonna like completely get it. Always like recommend The Voice. Also, again, a great place for you to develop your sense of taste. Like writing reviews and writing coverage aren't too dissimilar from each other. Maybe one has a certain format and one has a different format, but those skills are certainly transferable. Um, Classes that I would recommend, of course, it comes down to what you as a person are interested in. I'm personally super interested in like anything to do with writing. I'm interested in like analysis of film and TV and media. I'm also very into music and storytelling. So I ended up taking classes such as narrativity and hip hop. I took the film studies for my senior seminar, which was focused like exclusively on 90s film. I took screenwriting with John Glavin, great set of classes. I took television and society with Kelly Cole, another great class. A lot of the classes I'm listing are under the English major, as I was an English major. And what I loved about being an English major is that so many of the classes were cross-listed with other departments. So script writing was cross-listed with film and media studies. I'm trying to think of another example. Narrativity and hip hop was cross-listed with music, things like that, where it's like I have all these different things I'm interested in and was able to like just dip my feet in everywhere. But it boils down to whatever you I think are personally interested in, and like you can find classes that really like satiate, whatever it is that you're looking to learn about.
That's great. No, that's wonderful. My goodness, Adora is like, we're coming to time, which is crazy because it goes
Oh
by
my
so fast.
gosh. I
I
feel like there's
know.
so many more things I can say.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, I always end with like last words of wisdom, advice, and everything. So, like, if there's, of all the things that you could think about, I mean, are there certain things that you would want to hit home or we haven't covered or advice that you would give, anything under that heading, before we close out?
I think one thing that I would say is, gosh, so much pressure. It's like, what's the one like last words of wisdom? I think the main thing that I would say is Georgetown is a place where the culture is sort of like, oh, by junior year, you should have your like job lined up and like, as soon as you step in the classroom, you've already secured like your next internship opportunity. And obviously I'm exaggerating, but like there are times where I think people can attest to the fact that it does feel like that, like given that like the school is so focused on like paths such as like consulting and politics, where it feels like there are pipelines. In entertainment, there really is no set pipeline. There are pieces of advice people can give you that have worked before. Um, but it's not set in stone what the path is going to be. So a lot of people will tell you that you have to create your own path, which is just so like different from like what I guess a lot of other Georgetown students are doing. And that can make you feel like you're behind. It can make you feel as though things aren't moving. But if you are sort of putting in the work to, like talk to people, join the clubs that you want to join, take those classes that you want to take, and like sort of following your own path and your own instincts and your own interests, like regardless of what like other people are doing, that kind of stuff will absolutely pay off in the long run. Like even when it feels like things aren't moving, like it is moving. It's just the industry is not the kind of place where it's like you do this and then boom and then boom and then boom. It's the kind of place where it's like you do this and then it stalls for a bit, and then maybe in a while you find out, oh, that thing that I did actually will pay off, and they did get my email, the spot just wasn't available at the time. So I think just being patient and trusting the process and knowing that no matter what you're doing, you are pursuing what it is that you want to do is the best piece of advice that I can give you.
Yay, that's excellent. That's a great place to end. So, Adora, thank you for joining today.
Thank you for having
Yes, and I'm
me.
glad that I could get you back to, I think, your lunch, which is going to take place soon. So,
Yeah.
thank you very much. And